Hi again folks, how are you all doing? This is a Lima 4F that was sent to me by Bob. Bob inherited a load of old locomotives from his father-in-law, and I've worked on a few of them that he sent me in the past. Bob recently sent me 3 more locomotives to look at, one of which is this wee Lima, which looks like an HO scale model to me. Anyway, let's turn on the power. Well, it runs, but not that well, and it sounds horrendous. Let's get this into the shed and we'll have a wee look at it. Oh, go on, in you go. Righty-ho then, we'll get a look at this little Lima 4F. I haven't looked at one of these before. I'm not a fan of Lima steam models. Big fan of their diesels, but not a fan of their steam models. This is very rattly. So initially I was just going to include this in the shed video. I've worked on a few of Bob's late father-in-law's locomotives, and yeah, they he must have been quite a character, and he took Jiggery Faffery to another level, and this model's no exception. So when I started looking at it, I thought, you know what, it'd be quite nice to give this a video on its own, just to let you get a close look at some of what Bob's late father-in-law got up to. So Bob's father-in-law, I don't know his name, but we'll just call him Bob's father-in-law. He really was the master of the makeshift drawbar. So you can see there we've got a strip of brass or copper screwed in. We've got a piece of wire to help contact, so he's mimicking the original Lima drawbar, but he's also got a spring between the drawbar and the locomotive. It's actually poking through. I don't think it's quite meant to do that, but the idea of the spring isn't bad actually. That maintains contact and kind of mimics the spring that Hornby fitted to some of their pony trucks. But yeah, I've seen a few of these makeshift drawbars from Bob's father-in-law now, and they always make me smile, but they work. What is in this locomotive, I dread to think. And some other locomotives I've come across bolts and all sorts of things crammed in with plasticine and whatever. Yeah, I mean, the condition, it needs a bit of a clean-up, but it's not that bad. It's got the usual disconnected centre drive wheel on the locomotive, but that's all nice and free moving. Just needs a clean-up really, I think. So what will we do? We'll disconnect this drawbar and we'll get a look inside both the locomotive and the tender. Let's undo this. Because this is running just very roughly, it just needs a good clean and a service. How quiet I can get it, well, we'll see. So there's a screw goes right through, and then we've got the spring, then the drawbar, and then that nut. So can I get that in there? That's fine. Undo that. I think the between the spring and the drawbar, I might put a washer to stop the spring from coming through. Yeah. Great stuff. We'll put it all in the sonic cleaner and give it a good clean. Right, okay, this is loose. And we've got a piece of wood. What is behind this piece of wood? Whatever it is, it's very rattly. We have got a bunch of nails. I love it. I really do. He must have been, just the kind of guy that didn't have ready access to all the right things. So I'm just picturing a guy in his shed and he's got a locomotive that doesn't work very well, and he just comes up with makeshift solutions, which I think is absolutely brilliant. Clearly wasn't too aesthetically minded. A bunch of nails as weights. I mean, not even stuck together, just shoved in loose. I don't even think you need the weights. That's reasonably heavy. But, a little bit extra weight's never a bad thing. So I think I'd actually like to keep those, but we'll secure them. Wrap some tape around them and secure them into the locomotive so they're not rattling about. I don't want to undo what Bob's father-in-law did, to be honest, but I'll do whatever it takes to get the thing running. Another thing he liked to do is glue tender bodies on. And this one's no exception. It's been glued on. It kind of looks like the standard Lima ring field, but we've got pickups on this side. Well done, Lima. They've got the traction tyres on the wheels that don't have gears in them. Just silly. And there's pickups on these wheels there, which is fine, but you've got gears there, so the pickups are very, very close to the gears. That wire comes from this pickup to that brush, and the wire from this pickup goes to that brush. But we'll clean it up. We'll give the motor a good service. We'll file these gears. The brushes don't look worn at all, so I don't think this has done an awful lot of mileage. It's a bit roasty toasty today. A bit too hot, to be honest. Can't think properly. That'll lift out. So we can give all that a good clean. Yeah, should be okay. Get the monkey brush on it. Quite a bit of fluffage on these spindles. I don't know what sort of glue he used, but it's horrible brown gunky stuff. And that's a Hornby coupling, I think, that's been screwed on. I'm nearly out of contact cleaner. I'll need to go down to the hardware shop and get some more. And put all the metal bits and bobs into the sonic cleaner. Trying to see how this keeper plate comes out. And the answer is just like that. There we go. Yeah, that's not well designed at all. So they then come out. The old T-cut. I have to say I'm kind of struggling a wee bit with the heat here. It's not that hot, but I've just been out with the dogs and it's kind of stuffy in this room, so I think we'll get this cleaned up and we'll get the stuff into the sonic cleaner, and I think I'm going to call it a day at that. I think we'll go off and do something else. It's just a bit too stuffy in here. We'll get all these wee bits and pieces into the sonic cleaner. Switch it on. Right, okay. Go and get a cup of tea and a biscuit. Okay, so next day, it's much more comfortable conditions for working in. So all the motor parts were cleaned up. I've put it all back together, and I think this will be okay. It's got the usual Lima rattle. So what I'm going to do now is clean up all the old glue off this tender chassis. It's a horrible brown sticky, I don't know what it is. I don't think it's epoxy. Fortunately, the tender chassis is metal, so I can have a good scrape at this without risking any damage. There's a lot of glue on the tender body as well. Try and remove this. Okay, I've cleaned up the wheels, so I think we can pretty much start to get this back together. So we'll start by popping this back in. So that pickup there has to make contact with the tender chassis in there. So that's what's collecting current from the locomotive. So that wants to go in there like that. How does this motor bogie fit in? I didn't really pay attention to how it fitted in. I just kind of pulled it out, but I've got a horrible feeling it was kind of just held in there with the tender body. So there's a peg on the inside of the cover that rests on there. The motor engages at the front there to stop it moving back and forward. And when the body was fixed on, that would keep the motor in place. But given that there's no real means to keep that body on securely, I was just going to use a bit of black tack. That motor is not secure, so I think I'm going to have to do a bit of bodging myself, and I'm kind of thinking of, I could put a little screw in there and one in there to keep the motor in place. Okay, so I switched the camera off to have a think about this. I'm going to get some lunch, but before putting the camera back on, I had a fiddle around and I've managed to secure the motor into the tender chassis. If the tender body fitted on, it would hold the motor in place. And it'll screw in at the front there when I get the drawbar in, but there's nothing to clip it in at the back. So yeah, that'll just have to get held with black tack. But I filed away some metal on the chassis, and I've got a little screw in there and another tiny wee screw in there just to hold the motor in. I couldn't really think of what else to do. So what I'm going to do now is, I've got these wheels plopped back into the locomotive chassis. They all seem to be okay. We'll get a tiny wee spot of oil on them. And then we'll get the little makeshift drawbar put back together. Now, I think that went in there like that. That's a horrible, horrible way to clip those wheels in. Right, okay. What am I doing? Right, the drawbar. Got a right mess here, but never mind. I'll put this little wire back on. Whether it actually does anything or not, I'm not sure, but won't do any harm. Right, a wee bit of black tack to hold the tender body on. That's in there like so. And then that'll go there like that. I should point out that these two wheels are conductive. So when this is in position, the locomotive is picking up on this side, and the tender is picking up on that side. So pop that in, like so. That went down through there. And then I think, did the spring go on? Would that be right? Yeah, must have been. So that goes on. I'd still like to put a little washer on there. That one there. There we go. It's quite a close coupling. There's not an awful lot of movement there, which is a little bit worrying. But let's see if this works. Right, let's see if it runs. So there we go, it runs, and it runs a lot better than I thought it was going to. I was expecting it just to sit there buzzing or something. I wish the tender was a bit more secure at the back. I'll maybe try a bit more black tack or something. It's screwed at the front, but that's kind of lifting it at the back, so I'll have a look at that. But yeah, it runs not bad at all. If this had been, if Bob had sent me this and said that he bought it at a toy fair or bought it at a charity shop or been given it by a friend or something, I'd have been less inclined to take a look at it. But because it's got sentimental value to him, because it's his father-in-law's locomotives, I don't mind spending a bit of time on these and trying to get them going again. But old models like this that have been bodged around with, or models that are Frankenstein models made up of different bits of other models, can be really, really troublesome to get going again. And there's been a few I've done in my time that I've spent far too long on. Really just I should have thrown the towel in with them. But got this going again, so Bob's father-in-law's legacy lives on. Okay then, let's bring it out the shed. So there we are, that's this old HO scale Lima 4F serviced and rebodged into running order. Main issue was fitting the motor into the tender chassis. I had to fit 2 wee screws to keep the motor in place, which I think originally would have been held in place by the tender body. Other than that, this really just needed a service and a bit of a clean-up. The bodged together drawbar works fine despite its crude appearance. However, I think a wee bit of thread lock on that wee nut might be an idea, as it might wear loose. But fun to see how Bob's fan-in-law went about things. Nails as a weight is a new one, but very typical, and at least this model wasn't full of chunks of plasticine as some of the other models Bob sent me have been. Off camera, I glued the back of the tender body with a wee spot of PVA just to help keep it in place. PVA will come away if required easily, so nothing permanent. Anyway, all good fun. I shall get this packed up and sent back to Bob, and I'll catch you later, folks.